Welcome to the Filthy Heathens podcast. My name is Kirk. We're going to get straight into it today. Today is going to be an all political day. We're going to talk a lot about death, though. So, death on everything. So, we're going to go ahead and get started right away on Andrew Cuomo and him covering up almost 1,900 nursing home deaths that he caused, that he is responsible for directly. So, in case anybody hasn't heard of this, Andrew Cuomo is the governor of New York. When COVID first started, the one thing that everybody knew was that this virus tended to target the elderly. Generally, people I believe just over the age of 65 is what I remember the age being. So people over the age of 65, basically people in nursing homes. It burned through a nursing home, I believe in Seattle, because we didn't know about it. Somebody had come back from China, they'd gone to visit a relative, and it wiped out a bunch of people in one particular nursing home. So we knew right away that it was a problem when it came to older people. So what did Cuomo do? And unfortunately, other governors have done, is he sent recovering nursing home patients back into nursing homes. So if you got sick, if you were somebody that was living in a nursing home and you got COVID, you would be transported to a hospital and you would be given all the treatments and stuff like that they could. But in general, they would send you home they would send you away back to a nursing home to recover. Even though the people that would be around you and the people that would be exposed were by and large going to be elderly people over the age of 65, people that were going to have a more severe reaction to this virus. So that happened. And here's the problem is Cuomo, during a press conference he gave the other day, was saying how he was trying to blame everybody else. He tried blaming Trump. It was, we didn't want anything to do with Trump. It was a problem. We didn't get the kind of support we needed from Trump. Even though, number one, he said Trump was doing a good job during that time. He said, we've been getting everything we need from the federal government. On top of that, Trump sent a U.S. Navy hospital ship. If I'm not mistaken, those ships have 1,000 beds, have 1,000 areas, so you can keep sick people in. That's what that ship was meant for. Never got used. He had basically an arena at the Javits Center, was a huge area that he could have used for more beds, more space to kind of keep people from, infecting other people. No, he didn't use any of that. He didn't do any of that. What he decided was, these nursing home patients, they're going to go back into the nursing homes. They're going to go back and go about their business. So we knew right away that the most vulnerable among us were the elderly. And he just ignored that. Talk about, we keep saying, we hearing this for the last year, trust the science. You need to believe the science. You need to, believe all the scientists, what they're saying. We should be trusting our medical professionals. Well, right away, the first thing the medical professionals said was that our elderly are the primary concern. They're the ones that are going to die from this. And that was completely ignored. So that was bad enough that he had an edict that he put out that said, no, these people can go back in their nursing homes, go right back into where they live. That was bad enough because that was, according to the New York Health Department, that showed 5,443 nursing home residents had been killed by the coronavirus. So now my understanding is, and I'm looking at a New York Post article, that statistic includes 1,885 seniors who died in hospitals and weren't included in the official Department of Health count for nursing home deaths. So 5,400. That's what he was saying. Well, he covered up almost 1,900 deaths, basically. is what happened. So that is not something that is okay at all. It's bad enough that you made a bad policy. You could have, and here's the thing is, I could have said right off the bat, I said this about 6 or 7 months ago, that this was the one unforgivable thing that any governor did, was if they sent people back into nursing homes, because that was the one thing we knew right off the bat. That was the one unforgivable thing. But you can kind of just say, look, we screwed up. I mean, own it. If he had owned it and come out and said, no, I screwed up. This was not the best thing for us to do. And that's on me, and I have to take responsibility for that. If we had more government officials, more governors, more state legislatures, more people at the national level that had that kind of courage to say, I took responsibility for this. This was my decision, and I fucked up. If they had the balls, the testicular fortitude to actually come out and say that, I would be like, okay, look, you screwed up, but okay, you owned it. How are we gonna, what can we do about this? No, he decided to cover it up. So going through the article, we're talking about a lot more death. And luckily there was essentially a whistleblower who came out and said, yeah, it's, the rate's much higher. We were told we had to cover it up because we were worried that the feds would get involved and start investigating. Well, turns out that it was actually much worse than that, because now it comes out that statewide the total number of nursing home deaths is over 13,000 and a cover up. So all this stuff where they were worried about a federal investigation, well, that's all gone, because now as I'm reading through here on some of the news about this, we are seeing that, let me see here. Where's that article I had? It was the U.S. attorney in Brooklyn is actually starting an investigation with the FBI into Cuomo's handling of this entire mess. And it's pretty sickening that we have someone that is a governor of a state, and not just a state, it's almost kind of the state in the country. It's kind of the state that it's for some reason, it's probably because of New York City. I mean, New York City is the city in the U.S. That's just the way it is. But the governor of that state, not just lying about it, not just making a bad decision. Government officials, governors, people pass bad laws. They make bad decisions all the time. It happens, and we get it. But to cover it up, that's the problem. You can go back. Nixon, the reason why Nixon was going to get impeached unless he resigned wasn't because he did something shady. Shady stuff happens. It was because he tried covering it up. And it's the same thing with Bill Clinton. The only reason he got impeached, it wasn't because he was a scumbag and sexually harassed women. We knew about that before he got elected president. We knew he had an issue with that. That wasn't the problem. The problem was that he tried to cover up his problems in the White House. The same reason here. It's the same thing here. He messed up and he cost people's lives. But the cover up is what's really sinister about this. You really, at this point, this is almost, to me, I honestly think if they do find that he covered this up, that this was a legit cover up, and he knowingly sent people to nursing homes, knowing they could infect other people, and the risk was very high that other people would die from that decision, he needs to go to jail. That's just it. That he needs to go. Let's just take everything off the table. He was going to be somebody in line as a future presidential candidate. That was just obvious. If not a presidential candidate, maybe, if everyone who thinks Biden's going to die or resign sometime during this term between 2020 and 2024, he could have easily been somebody, Kamala Harris decided, hey, why don't you come be my VP? This was basically this golden boy. I mean, Hollywood gave him an Emmy for his briefings and praised him for how he was being so honest and giving us the leadership that we weren't getting from Washington. And it turns out all to be bullshit. 100% bullshit. He covered everything up, and I mean, there's no other way to put this. He's potentially a murderer. I mean, we'll have to see how the investigation goes. Politicians at this level, usually nothing bad happens to them. They just kind of, maybe he resigns from his post as governor. Maybe he gets impeached and thrown out of office there in the state. You have a lot of Democrats turning on him in the state, especially. So we'll see how that goes. But this is awful. This is the worst thing. I remember when we first started these lockdowns, you had all these, self-aggrandizing pieces of shit like Don Lemon on CNN saying things like, you want to kill grandma so you can go get a haircut. So accusing people who wanted to be able to open their businesses, who wanted to be able to get back to their lives a little bit more. You had all these left-wingers coming out and saying, we wanted to kill grandma for doing that. When you had that motherfucker in New York actually killing grandma, and now we know he covered up how many grandmas he killed. So I don't want to hear trust the science from any left-wingers anymore. They're so full of shit because they ignored the science right at the very beginning. The only scientific thing we knew at the very beginning about this virus is it killed old people. And rather than take help from the federal government that was provided to him, Andrew Cuomo killed grandma and said, screw it, that's fine. I have no idea where that would come from. Why would you do that? I mean, we know that deaths were going to be blamed on particular governors and whoever the president was at the time, and that was Trump. So we knew the deaths were going to be blamed on those people. What kind of incentive do you have to ignore the science and risk people's lives? The only thing I can think of is they took that one piece of evidence. Cuomo took that one piece of evidence that we knew older people were more susceptible, more likely to die. And then when they died, he had kind of an out. Like, okay, well, yeah, these people died, but this virus attacks old people. And, it's sad, and I'm very sorry about that, but it's a reality of the situation. I mean, I can't think of another reason. And even then, I mean, are you just trying to justify your death toll? You think your death toll is going to be here, and it ends up not being there. And you can say, oh, great, well, the death toll wasn't that great. Or if it did get that high, you can just say, well, it was mostly old people, and, old people die from this. Other than that, I mean, that means that it was a political decision. And if he is responsible for the deaths of over 10,000 people for that specific decision, and it was all based on on political calculations, he needs to go to jail. Bottom line, Andrew Cuomo is done politically. He should be done politically. He should have no office whatsoever. The New York legislature, whatever their impeachment proceedings are, however they get rid of a governor, whatever's in there, they need to start those immediately. The U.S. attorney has already started an investigation into him. This guy needs to go. He needs to go away and never come back. He should never be in a position of power ever again at any level. He should not be able to run for a county clerk's position. He shouldn't be allowed to be like a school janitor at this point. He is done. He should be completely done. While we're at it, every single Hollywood sycophant who praised him for his leadership during this time, their career should be over too. People like Billy Crystal, people like Spike Lee, I believe Rosa not Rosa Mendez. Shoot, what's her name? Anyway, they put out this big old thing for him at the Emmys and said, "Oh yeah, you did a great job." Blah blah blah. All of your careers should be over. Most of your careers are already in reality. Most of your careers are already over, but they should be done. Anybody who came out and supported Andrew Cuomo, they can't be trusted at all in any way, shape, or form. So that's it on Cuomo. I hope that he gets the book thrown at him, whatever that book is. It needs to be thrown and hit him straight in the fucking head. So that's it for Cuomo.